Hello, hello. This is Dr. Anastasia Chopless, the scientific healer. Today, what I'm going to talk about is how to stimulate your immune system, how to really get it moving. It's based on your interaction with others. So last time I talked about grounding and centering, and this is a really important thing to do for ourselves, grounding and centering. Because what it does is it brings you back. So when you're off center, one of the things I'm going to talk about right now is your energy field. When you're off center, your energy field can be, expanded anywhere and not covering certain parts of you. One thing that's really important is that we humans are designed to interact with one another. And there are two ways in which we interact. One is near field interaction, and I'll describe both of them. And the other one is distance interactions. And people say, well, what's a distance interaction? Well, when I used to live in Germany and my mom would call me on the phone and she would say things that upset me, I'd be upset for a whole month. That is a distance interaction. She was nowhere near me. We were like 10 time zones away. So we are really designed to interact because this is a way to propagate the species, to create families. In other words, for us to embrace who we are around. It's our way that we can connect to the emotions and thoughts of others a lot of times without even saying anything. And the connection energy is way beyond what meets the eyes, okay? I mean, a lot of us can look at one another and, look passes between you, kind of like a look of recognition or a look of admiration or a look of enjoyment, and you know what's going on, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening below the surface. Like usually you can size people up in a matter of seconds, right? And the thing that I noticed in this, I've been super empathic and, highly, highly sensitive. People have always called me like too sensitive. No, I'm just me, take it or leave it. But the thing that's happened is that the current events, social isolation, staying home from work, not being able to shop in our favorite places, not being able to go to movie theaters, the gym, off to the beach, the parks, whatever, not being able to have our normal activities. It means the whole human race has had to shift kind of like their way of being. And the first 2 months were almost indescribably difficult. It felt like I was in a vat of cold honey up to my neck and nothing was moving, and my emotions kind of fell into that same slow motion, depressed feeling. And I felt like this particular concept, because I had to do some energy tricks in order for me to get back up. And it's not like my life has changed. I work from home, so I'm here all the time anyway, and my husband has an essential job, so he's off to work every day as well. I can't attribute it to a real change in what's happening to me personally. It's like what's happening around the world. That meant that other people's feelings, thoughts, and emotions were impinging on me, and people were scared. They were really scared of getting sick and dying. There was too much of that thought going around, and everybody, there was like these two factions fighting one another. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, we're all going to get sick, no we're not, kind of thing. And then on top of that, the current political environment made it even worse. So it was really hard to stay upbeat. And this is really kind of like a near field interaction. It is not a distant connection, because all the people in our neighborhood, like you go shopping with your mask on, all the people in the neighborhood were all feeling that same fear. In the near field interactions, it's usually with our friends and family, but it can be where you go shopping and, the people that your workplace and things like that. But it can be even beyond that, and I'll explain that in just a second. The field that's around you is really where it interacts. We have two ways we interact, the field and then we have cording, right? So the field that's around you is what interacts with other in the near field interaction. So the way that gets interfered with in this, the way it gets interfered with is that if you are in a funk yourself, it's kind of like eating white food for your field, right? If you're depressed or angry or jealous or feeling ashamed or guilty, it leaves a big hole around you. It's kind of like that energy field gets weak and it allows things to come in and out of your field that you don't want there. So, and it's the same if you were eating like sugar all the time, right? It would weaken your field. That's the first thing, is your emotions. The second thing is if you are off center in any way, and off center could be like your field is expanded and way off somewhere else because you're thinking about the world in general. And as soon as you expand your field, you have everybody else's fields in you. You could expand your field as big as a house, as big as your block, as big as your city. When you start thinking about global events, your field expands out. And the last way is you're giving your power away too easily. Like you attribute other people, you give people power to make decisions for you, and rather than you making decisions yourself. That's not to say like whether to wear a mask or not to wear a mask, but it is, what you are personally responsible for, what you eat, whether you exercise, what you do every day, those kinds of things. And when you give somebody else the power to judge over you and to dictate your actions, that's really harmful for you. And that also makes your energy field weak. So the question is, what do you do? In all three cases, the result is really similar. That field that's around you, that's protecting you, is going to get weak. So there are three little tips that I can describe how you can make your field strong. So of course, the first one is you can download either one of my free meditations. The one that I have up on the box today is scientifichealer.com/emotional, right? And it helps clean out those emotions, but it does all the energy hygiene for you. The second is that you can imagine that you have this field with all these lines of energy coming out and they're tangled. And what that does is it leaves gap. It's kind of like if you get up in the morning with bedhead or you have hat hair, right? You take off your hat and your hair is sticking up all over the place, right? It's the same thing. Like if I have wet hair and it's like all over the place, then it leaves gaps and you can see my scalp everywhere instead of just the normal part that I have here. Right? So if I comb my hair, it straightens it out. You also have lines of energy all over your body, and you can just imagine that you take your fingers and just very gently, loosely comb them through. And you can also imagine that your energy person is here in front of you, and you just comb them through. And what that does is it straightens out all of that kind of tangled mess, like getting you away from, bed body. And it combs it all out and straightens it out. And as you're combing it out, you're imagining that you're pulling off like all the foreign matter. Just like when you go to the beach and get a lot of sand in your hair, and you're combing it and the sand is coming out. It does the same thing. And so as you comb it out, it helps straighten your energy field out and get rid of a lot of those feelings. And the second thing that you can do is after you take a couple of deep breaths, right? Take a couple of deep breaths. And when you blow your air out, imagine the energy field coming in tight around your body. And you want to do that when you go outdoors. Like if you go in a store, you just, and you pull yourself in tight to about 18 inches. And what that does is when you go through in a store, you're not interacting with other people's fields so readily. And sometimes you can sense them. You can just say, hey, could you pull yourself in? And they're going, huh? And you go, oh, never mind. But their subconscious will do what you say, right? So if I tell you to pull yourself into 18 inches, you're pulling yourself in. You've already centered yourself from what I talked about last week, bringing yourself down into your body. When you take a deep breath, you're centering yourself, and then you pull yourself in. Keeps you tight and keeps you nice and warm, and then inside your energy envelope. And then the last thing is owning your own power. And so when owning your own power, what you want to do is use your grounding cord and let all of those thoughts that you're having about other people, like with that overwhelming, I felt heavy, with that heavy feeling, I just let the heavy feeling drain down out of my body, down the grounding cord, right? Because you want to establish a grounding cord every morning, let it all go down, right? So those are 3 steps that you can take for your energy field. So now let's talk about distance. Distance interaction with people, that is done through cords. So line of energy, a cord is a line of energy that connects you and another person. And that other person can be anywhere in the world, and it can also be somebody that has passed on, right? Because their energy doesn't disappear, right? So you have that line of energy, and usually what the harmful ones are the ones where you think of someone and you want something from them. Or they think of you and they want something from you, right? So they're actually, these unhealthy cords are demanding. And the people that are upbeat and energetic, other people see them and they want to hook in and say, ooh, I want what she's having, right? And that's when a cord is established. Ooh, I want what she's having. They cord to you and draw energy off of you. And that is how you can have it when you're talking with someone on the phone and they're all the way around the world. They connect with you. Yes, I'm having a conversation. And then after that conversation is over, they should be disconnecting. But in the case of some people that are insecure, like, I grew up in a dysfunctional family, right? So they're insecure. They are having those thoughts with you. They want something from you, and they're like, my mom was highly critical, and when somebody is critical of you, they're knocking your energy off so they can lap it up. Because usually when somebody is critical of you, you start to feel bad. Like, you're upbeat, and then they say, oh, why are you so upbeat? You're just an arrogant blah, 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 and, you're acting this way, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then you start to feel bad. And as soon as you start to feel bad, your energy is going down, and then they're lapping it up. So that way you get this cord, you're getting your energy drained, and you don't know why, right? So that's the distance reaction. And there's 2 ways to take care of that. One is that you can cut cords. You can just imagine that the edge of your arm is like a big sword, and you're cutting all the cords, and don't forget the stuff in the back, and you chop down 3 times, and you imagine all those cords dropping deep into the earth and letting them go. And then you have to make sure that you plug everything up, like, use some sort of cement or plaster and plug the holes that the cords made so they don't find their way back in. But the other way that I really like is you imagine, those power strips that you can get where you have all the cords on there. So I just imagine that my body is like a power strip, and I'm just pulling all of the excess cords out, letting them drop away, and then I'm filling them in. And you can even imagine one of those little child protection things going into all the plugs and locking them down, right? So you're cleaning everything up. So anyway, those are the two ways, near field interaction, which is from your energy body, your energy field. And then the other way is courting. And courting, you usually invite it in, right? You usually invite it in. But sometimes when you're feeling a little bit down, your energy field has a little gap in it, and somebody will find their way in. Like, like my mom would say, let's talk. And so that the cord is coming, right? When people say, oh, let's have a conversation, and you kind of sense that it's not going to go the way you want it to, that means they're trying to find a way to plug their cord in to draw your energy down. I hope that was useful to you. So 2 things. Remember to pull yourself in tight when you go outside. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and pull yourself in. Comb your energy field out. That's an energy trick that you can learn. Comb it out and get rid of all of the snarls and tangles and poopy thoughts, like combing sand out, letting it go. And the last thing is to ground. Send your grounding cord and let those emotions drop down, whatever they are. Whenever you're feeling depressed or anxious or worried or afraid, any of those emotions you can let go. And then the last thing is the cording that you feel. You can either chop the cording and let it drop, or you can unplug it, like you have a power strip with lots of cords plugged in. Unplug it, seal it up, make sure it's nice and sealed up. And that should help with your emotional state of mind and improve your immune system. So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here. I will see you next week, same time, same place.